How's it going, guys? This is Luke from Coffee House, and I know I've been away for a while. We've taken a brief hiatus from the YouTube scene. We've been very busy here at Coffee House over the last couple years. This year, I really wanted to make it a point to jump back into videos like this. I think one, it helps us reach an entirely new audience, and two, I think it lets us really familiarize ourselves and kind of like forces us to familiarize ourselves with products that still kind of synchronize between the home and the kind of like commercial setting. With a lot of products like Fellow and a lot of products like, all La Marzocco, all of those, you see this kind of like prosumer market really developing, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen that as well with these like $3,000 coffee grinders at home and things like that. As those products get more and more professional, and as we kind of like lean more in that really deep enthusiast way, I think it's really important to kind of like, involve ourselves with this. As long as we've been away, Fellow with their kettle has just been kind of killing it. They haven't changed anything, and they've just been kind of running with what they know best. The kettle has totally taken the coffee, the coffee consumer market by storm, because the next thing, if you look back at our older videos, there's like the Bona Vita kettle. And when you compare that to something like the Stagg kettle is just so much better. What we have now here is the Fellow updated Stagg EKG. It's the Pro Studio Edition. And so they came out with two models basically, as far as I know. They have like the Pro and then the Pro Studio Edition, which have, in my opinion, two kind of different purposes. I think the Studio Edition is always going to be that more expensive model. The Pro, I think, in my opinion, is just going to kind of phase out the regular Stagg EKG. That said, we got these into the office a couple weeks ago, and I haven't looked at them yet. What I wanted to do in this video is I just wanted to jump in and kind of like give my initial impressions and compare it to the experience that I had when I opened the first Stagg kettle. Without further ado, let's jump into the Stagg EKG Pro Electric Pour-Over Kettle Studio Edition. Same kind of like uniform shape and size as the regular EKG, but in a nice little craft box. Hello on top of the box. And, pretty similar experience to the regular Stagg kettle. It's got that same kind of like corrugated cardboard there. Same kind of like this little plasticky stuff that they use for the ode and everything as well. And same with the base. And so I haven't seen this yet. We've had this for quite a while here at the office, but I've intentionally avoided looking at all of them because I'd really like to give kind of my first impressions on all of that. So first things first, let's look at the actual kettle here. I've heard some whisperings around the office that some of these parts were actually very new. I mean, right off the bat, this looks a lot better than what the original one looked like. There's a rubber gasket now on the inside of the lid here, which is just so much better than just kind of like that metal on metal contact. And I know a big issue that we had with our Stagg EKGs, especially here at the office, was these wood little handles will break and crack and get loose. And it looks like they've installed a little rubber gasket down at the base of it. But for, when we do the longer term review, I'm gonna give a little bit more feedback on how this kind of wood handle holds up. And they did come out with the plain black model and then also, the wood handles and everything like that. So this is the wood one that we have here. The kettle itself, we've got here. And really not too different, at all, other than, when compared to the other ones. This looks, pretty much the same. There's a little black metal here instead of chrome. Everything else is pretty much the same on this. Nothing too different off of the actual, kettle base itself. However, these rubber feet seem to be a little nicer. It's kind of like a little more sturdy. I do really like this kind of rubber gasket though on top. I think it is a really great improvement, and it helps kind of like seal the whole unit. It looks a little bit more flush too. All right, so next is the actual base itself. This, I have been hearing, is kind of like, the main feature. And so, I really want to spend some time with this, giving my initial impressions. But yeah, right off the bat, what you're looking at is a huge improvement compared to the original kettle. What you've got is this kind of like shiny, almost like glass top on it. You have a second button here. And so, like I said, I've tried to insulate myself as best I can when giving a first impression on this, because we'll do the review later. It's really interesting that there's an entirely second button now. which I'm interested to see kind of like how that works along. This is a little less notchy too, which I kind of like, and it's metal now instead of plastic, which is actually really nice. I'm interested to see how this kind of glass top will do when it's, you know, like with repeated use. There might be quite a bit of like marking up on there, but we're gonna find out. I know there's like better rubber feet on that, so we'll see. All right, so what is very satisfying about this is there's this, you know, nice little plastic screen protector on there. So we're gonna go ahead and get that off. There we go. Yeah, I mean, this looks way better, but I guess the question, you know, we'll address more in the review is kind of like, is this something that's worth upgrading to versus like the regular Stagg EKG? Off the first bat, I think this will be more worthy of the upgrade than like the Stagg Pro, the one that I think is going to be kind of like the middle ground for the two. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and turn it on, you know, first impressions here. I'm going to fill the kettle with a little water so we don't just go ahead and run it dry. Okay, so now, you know, this is going to be my first impression of kind of like using the screen and everything like that. And I know there is a digital display here. You know, I did order them, so I've seen at least a couple of pictures of everything. And I like that it is hidden. It looks really seamless. I'm going to go ahead and put that on and presumably hit the power button as it was, and that did work. And I mean, like right off the bat, the digital display is completely different. You kind of went away from that little non-LED screen to this much more brilliant, bright, really, really nice screen. It's got also like kind of like a time to boil thing, which I really enjoy. I mean, yeah, this is a huge step up in the right direction. I'm really interested to see how this affects longevity. And so, you know, very seamless. I think one thing I was worried about is that the screen would have like a little bit of lag time to it, but it doesn't, which is really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and turn down the boil noise so we can hear ourselves. But so it looks like it's doing great there. What I'm gonna do now is hit the other button. Since there's no hold buttons on the back, I would imagine everything is in here. And so we have schedule mode, which presumably, let's see, I'm gonna turn it on. Yeah, you can set it. So that's really interesting. You can go ahead and I can set, like let's say I wake up at 6 a.m. I can go ahead and set it right there, and now it's set. So I can actually adjust the temperature right here as well. So 205 degrees at 6 a.m. So when I wake up in the morning, that's gonna be really awesome. I mean, it'll just start boiling. That's really interesting. We have a guide mode, which is presumably more for like a beginner doing a pour over or something like that. I'm not gonna get into the guide mode just yet. We can talk about that in the review and see if it's actually a little more functional. We have a chime, which is cool. Okay, so there's like a little kind of audio display on there, which I think is nice too. Probably for when the water is finished boiling or something. Units, which is the same as the other one, Celsius, Fahrenheit. General, language, clock, and wireless, which is cool. So I like the wireless feature. Presumably you can hook it up to the app and actually set your time to boil and remotely turn it on and everything like that. Altitude, which we can get a little bit more into in the actual review, because I did see this in there. We can actually set, you know, the actual sea level and above sea level. You know, obviously as you go higher up, your boiling point is going to change for water. And then get into the next one. We have pre-boil here. You can kind of get to a good point where you want to be, and then you can adjust the actual water temperature, fine-tuning it. And then you have your hold, which is the same thing as the other one. I was worried that this menu would be a little less intuitive than I thought it was going to be, but it's actually really nice. It's just really one button, and then you have your select button, and you just use this. The other menu button is the back button. It's actually very intuitive, and I'm really interested to see like where we go from here. Okay, so these are my first, you know, basic impressions about the EKG Pro Studio Edition. I really enjoy the improvement that they've made. Clearly they put a lot of time and money into the R&D side of things of this. I'm interested to see kind of like if the pain points for the original Stagg were addressed, especially the fit and finish of like the wood from a longevity standpoint. But I mean, right off the bat, this looks like a really interesting, long-term kind of like research project for us. And so when you're gonna see me next in regards to this is we're gonna do more of a long-term review. You know, we're gonna talk about the actual use of this on a daily basis, if we think it's worthy of an upgrade and all of that good stuff. I wanted to leave you with this, and I wanted to thank you guys for tuning in. I know we haven't posted in a while, but we definitely plan on posting more. We have a lot of cool, you know, reviews and other content that we're gonna be putting out. So again, thank you for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. And yeah, please watch the other videos, everything like that, and we'll see you next time.